Yeah. So understanding the four concepts about the users, groups, roles, and policies. But roles, we didn't see this demonstration, but we were understanding how to create a user and how to assign the policies to the user. Yeah, creating a user and assigning the policies to the user. But while assigning the policies, that is a make sure about it. So that user, the which role he is performing that means which kind of the permission that is required. So only allow that those policies attaching. So we were creating that one IAM user for administrator. Yes, don't use the root user account, and instead of using the root user account, and we are creating that one separate IAM user. That is with the administrator policy. But some other users also is like a development users or testing users like this. If you like to create it, then be specific that which policies they need it. So attach those policies to the user level. That is one section we are understanding. And another option which you are understanding, that is groups creation. But group is just logical entity where you can group the users who are performing the same activities. And if you apply the group level the policies, then in that group who are all the users are there, the default they will get it all those permissions. Instead of assigning that each user with the same permissions, then create a group and add the users to the group, then attach the policies at the group level, then automatically the policies which will be applicable to the users. So that's we are trying to working with some development users with the demonstration. Yeah, that is about users, groups, and policies. But roles we didn't discuss that. The roles we will talk it that is in the separate section. So the demonstration wise, I'll come back. But for the timing, understand it. The roles will be used internal resources to manage it. Yeah, suppose compute services required to access the storage services. Then we need to have it the permission. The compute service is going to access the storage service is nothing but compute service should have the permission to access the storage. But how do I give the permissions at a resource level? So we have the concepts of the roles. Yes, this was the concept which we are understanding. An IAM user, how do we log in it? That is in the dashboard. Yeah, you need to have that alias name, right? You don't use that account ID. So first create it for that account ID alias name. Then creating that username and assigning the password as well as. But while assigning the password, you can assign that the auto-generated password, and you can give that for other users during the login time. They can reset the password. Yeah, that is about users groups and users, the policies. And yes, one more important concept which we are trying to understand, how do we add that MFA, that is a multi-factor authentication to the user, whether that is root user or a normal user. Yes, the second level of the verification if it is required other than the username and the password, then we need to enable the multi-factor authentication. But whenever we are enabling that or configuring that multi-factor authentication, we have that app-based the token generation and using that token key for a second level of the verification, or we can use it hardware devices, which is kind of like a USB port, the way we need to use it to that laptop to access the account login. Or we have the third approach is keys generation by the hardware device. Then you can use that key to as a second level of the authentication for the AWS account. That is the multi-factor authentication. Yes, if you need it, yes, we can enable that. Yeah, there are the points that we are trying to understand it on the IAM section. And I have already shared that one video. So just refer about it. SSO also, how do we use it between the multiple accounts? So how do we define this with organization structure? Yeah, so this organization structure, it has been explained over there. Yes, having the two accounts and defining that those two accounts combining and defining that SCP policies. That means same policies applying to that two or more accounts. How do you do that? Some demonstration as advanced concepts. It has been given that the video. I shared that the forum links. Just you can refer to that. Yeah, so this is the overall concept on the this IAM section, which we should know that before moving to the next services. Are you clear about these points? Any queries, questions, please let me know to go ahead to this next service that is about EC2. Yeah, type that the clear RC in the chat window. So if you are good with that concept. Yeah, I see this response from, yes, good, good, good. Yeah, good. Thank you. Now, let me conclude it. Important points from the IAM. So, in the interview sections point of view, yes, or review point of view, there are all the points. So, whenever we are creating that, the users, suppose developers 10 members are there, then 10 IAM user accounts, which we will create. That means one physical person, one IAM user. Under roles point of view, but we didn't discuss that, but just keep that point. So for entire application, so which application we are going to run it on the AWS infrastructure? For that entire application, we use it one role, which it should contain all the policies as per the services requirement. One role per application, and IAM credentials should never be shared. Yes, next in the DevOps, we are going to talk about some version controlling tools, that is GitHub or GitLab. So whenever you are pushing the code in the Terraform or AWS CLI, don't push about your IAM credentials to the version controlling tools. So by mistake, if you have uploaded about your credentials to the GitHub, then within the minutes about your account will be hacked. So never ever share about your credentials to anyone, and as well as never use that credentials directly in the code to upload to the repositories. But what is that approach which we'll use, it will come back. But this is the security, the constraint point of view. Just keep this in the mind. And never ever ever write IAM credentials in a code. And even the less, never ever commit about your IAM credentials in the GitHub or GitLab repositories. They're all the very important. And as we're talking about the one more point, never use the root account except for initial setup. Root user account just as a backup point of view, just keep it like how we have the root user account on the Linux systems or administrator account on the Windows systems. Just keep it, but don't try to directly use that account. So as we were given the demonstration yesterday, create one IAM user account with administrator privileges, and daily whenever you are practicing that, use that user account instead of root user account. Root user account is with the mail ID you are logging is nothing but that is a root user account. But with account ID and with the username and the password you are logging is nothing but that is IAM user account. Never use that root IAM credentials. Yeah, so there are some important points as a credential, as a security considerations point of view, which we should know from the IAM section. And while creating the users, especially like development teams or testing teams and operation teams, is what is the role they have that and which services they are going to access that, identify the proper policy and attach the policy to the group of the users which they are going to work it on it. But don't give the full permissions to that all the users. That is security again violation. Yeah, limit that the permissions as much as you can do that whenever you are going to assign this or a teams management. The given that the policies point of view, the limit the security policies. I mean, the giving the permissions. Yeah, so that's about one important concept which we should know from the IAM section. Now, next another important service, and yes, if you're learning about AWS, at least the component which we should know, at least the service which we should know, that is EC2. So what is this EC2? And how do we use this service? And what are the correlated services with this EC2? EC2 is like compute service as we are understanding. EC2 is one of the most popular of AWS offering. It mainly consists in the capability of using this service. So what is the kind of cloud service we can get? It is getting that virtual machines, as creating the virtual machines. So it is like as a renting. We are going to get that the EC2 instance, that is virtual machines on the base of the rent. Yeah, EC2 service on AWS is, it is kind of, you are going to, or what are the virtual machine that is required, you are going to request or you are going to getting those virtual machines on the base of rent. And storage is also required. Suppose if you just think about, if I'm going to buy the laptop, yes, operating system is required. That like if you are preferring that Apple, yes, we have the Mac. Or if you're preferring this, the normal, yes, we have the Windows based, Windows 10 Home Edition or 11 Home Edition as per the latest one. And not only the operating system, we are looking about the storage also, right? Storage also required. That is hard disk. So we say this in the normal terminology, hard disk. How much hard disk capacity of that? And hard disk, whenever you are preferring also, we have that if you know that specification of the laptop, HDD types we have and SSD types we have. Suppose maybe if you go back to that something 6-7 years back, not only 6 years, almost 10 years back, if you see that we were having the laptops with the HDD based the disk. If you would like to starting about your system, it takes a lot of time. The 5 minutes, 6 minutes you need to wait it to boot up that the complete about your Windows operating system. But these days, if you are using the laptop, so within that, within a minute, the laptop which is going to starting, right? So backend storage system, the optimized system, we have that now. That is a disk capacity and a disk optimized one. So SSD is more optimized than HDD. Yeah, storage is important. If you're talking that the launching the virtual machine, yes, the storage is important. And operating system is required. Yeah, like this, if you just talk it in the EC2 format of AWS offerings, yes, you can launch the virtual machines with this EC2 service. And you can define that how much storage that is required. You need that 100 GB or 1 terabyte of that the GB or 100 terabytes of the GB. Yes, you can attach that volume to the EC2 instances. It is like as a hard disk. Just think it like whenever I say that EBS, block storage. So just think it in our normal terminology, that is a hard disk. And as we were understanding in the high availability architecture, if you remember that high availability architecture, do we need that only one virtual machine or do we need to have the two or more virtual machines? We need to have the two or more virtual machines, right? It is not just enough only one to launch the application. and to provide that high availability, load distribution, failovers to handle that. Yeah, with this EC2 in the compute service, what is that? One more offering which we have to say is load balancer. Yeah, in the normal on-premises, we say that like a big IP, say 5 or Cisco's load balancers, we have the different. But AWS itself in the EC2, it is offering that a load balancer to distribute the load between multiple machines. Yes, you can launch the multiple EC2 instances. Suppose about your application availability load point of view, you need the 10 virtual machines. Just take this 10 virtual machines and define the storages and launch that application on that EC2 instance. But all the 10 EC2 instances, how you are going to route it? The load which is coming from the end users. Then you can use it, the load balancer. This is one more offering from the EC2 service. And as we have this like latest, the one of the challenging in the infrastructure, that is scaling. If the load is increasing, then yes, the backend resource capacity, you need to increase it to handle the load. Or if the load is decreasing on that application, yes, then you can release that additional resources. That is a scale up or down, or scale out or scaling. We have the horizontal scaling, vertical scaling concepts. We'll come back. Yes, that is also the capability that we have from this EC2. Yeah, there are the important 4 sections that we should know. Or if you know all these concepts, then you know EC2. So not just launching the virtual machine, but launching the virtual machine with the storage, and launching that not just only virtual machine, the multiple virtual machines to deploy about our applications. And once applications have been deployed on the multiple virtual machines, how to manage the load distribution to those yes, across multiple virtual machines. And the backend of those virtual machines, how to manage it with the scaling features. That is on demand to handle that. Demand is increasing, then more instances required. Demand is decreasing, then instances release it back. It's just a rent. Whenever you need it, request those additional resources and get it and use it. And whenever you don't need it, release back to the AWS pool. Yeah, so these things, they're all important concepts which we can say from that EC2 instance. Yeah, knowing EC2 is the fundamental to understand how the cloud is working. As we are talking, that's all the features in the cloud computing about the reliability, failover, scalability, elasticity. Whether you are going to use the public cloud or private cloud, but they're all the main cloud features. Yes, but now we are going to talk about the AWS, and AWS is offering that EC2 service to handle that all those features. Yeah, now let's move into that. First, we'll talk about that EC2, that's a virtual machine. Then we'll come back to that the storage, how do we attach it, and then we'll talk it about that the load balancer mechanism. Then we'll talk it about auto scaling groups. So this is overall the 4 concepts. In the IAM, we are talking about 4 concepts like users, groups, roles, and policies. But roles is a pending, we'll come back. Like that EC2 also, whenever we talk it, the 4 concepts. So how do I launch the virtual machine? How do I define the storages? That is a block storage. Now, how do I define the multiple EC2 instances with a routing option, that is a load distribution? Then those EC2 instances, how do I manage it dynamically? Yeah, there are the 4 important concepts which we should know from the EC2. Yeah, we are going to work with that application and everything, working all this together. We'll come back to that. Yeah, first let's talk at that EC2 instance, that is virtual machine. If you'd like to launch that virtual machine using Vagrant, we are doing that already. But in our computer, we are doing. But if you are launching this any virtual machine or about our computer, what are the resources that's required? Yeah, computer resources, if you just talk it, yes, who is required? The process units required, the capacity of the process system, storage is required. Storage again, as I was mentioning that, is it a optimized one? More optimized if you prefer that, that is a high cost. Suppose if you go to this in the market, in the laptop whenever you are buying that, you can get it with 12,000, 15,000 also, that's laptop. But the storage, if it is a HDD type, yes, definitely will get that with less cost. But if you are having that SSD, then that would be high cost. Yeah, on the base of the storages, on the base of the process capacity, on the base of the network interfaces, firewalls, and the RAM capacity. Suppose in my laptop, if I open this any Word document, any file, if I open that, you are doing some activity. That Word document, if I'm opening, is nothing but that is going to the content, whatever we are using that in the Word document, temporarily it is managing in the RAM, right? Yeah, actually that is stored. The file is stored on the hard disk. In the disk that is stored, but whenever you are opening and you are doing with that activity with that particular file, then that file temporarily it is managing through the cache system or the RAM. But file opening and file the related operation that is processing by that core process units. Suppose if I'm running that one server or service on the system, so it is going to consume the CPU, it is going to consume the RAM, it is going to consume the disk storage. And if that process is required to access the net, yes, network interface is required. And on which operating system the process is running, the OS, that is interface, and security firewalls, from which IP address that should be allowed, from which IP address that should not be allowed, or which group of the system that should be allowed. Yes, they're all important components. Like that, if you're going to launch the EC2 instance, that means we are going to take that virtual machine from AWS provider, that is EC2 launching. Yes, you need to give that all these inputs. Which operating system that is required for that virtual machine? So what is the processor capacity that is required? How many core process units that is required? More core process units, that means more load it is going to allowing that. And high RAM capacity. Suppose I have the 2 GB system and the 16 GB system. Whenever I open the Word document, in which system that will be very fast? Obviously in the 16 GB, right? Because the processor capacity point of view and the RAM capacity point of view, yes, running that the process is very fast compared with the 2 GB system. Yeah, instance types and the RAMs, they're all very, very important. If I'd like to, I mean, suppose if I'm planning to launch the database instance. So as a database load point of view, I need to think it about it. How many processor units required and what is the RAM capacity that is required and how much storage that is required and which operating system, is it the Linux or Windows, and is it required the public interface or the private interface network point of view. And the firewalls, yes. So all these components, but in the AWS terminology, what do we say that? Operating system we have the concept of AMI. Suppose in our Vagrant also, Vagrant box, we are talking that, right? Suppose if I need the CentOS site, yes, CentOS site Vagrant box. Or in the normal, the virtual machine concept, we say that ISO image. But in AWS, what do we call that is? That is AMI, we call that. Amazon Machine Image. So if you're going to choose that Linux operating system or Windows operating system, or Windows Server is required, or is it Ubuntu based Linux required, or Red Hat based? Yes. How you are going to decide that whenever you are launching the EC2 instances, AMI is available. And next to CPU point of view, CPU and memories point of view, if you are going to define that, whenever we are launching the EC2 instance, what is the concept is available is instance type is available. Instance type that is going to deciding that how many core process units that's required for about your virtual machine which you are launching, and what is the capacity of the RAM that is required. So if I need that something 128 GB of the RAM, yes, I can get it. Or if I need that even that 1 GB system also, I can get it. But on the base of the processor which are launching that on the EC2 instance, as per that requirement, you can choose it instance type. You are going to create a EC2 instance, that is a virtual machine you are going to launching in AWS is nothing but first you need to choose the AMI, which operating system. Then what is the capacity of the CPU? What is the capacity of the RAM? That's you need to choose it. That is the type of instance. Then how much storage that is required? That is EBS volume. Is it required the 100 GB storage, or is it required the 1 terabyte of the storage? So that is we choose it with the block storage, EBS. EBS, whenever we talk it, just think about it. That is the storage. Then we can define that is it required the public interface, the private network interfaces, and we have this as we're talking to the firewalls here. But in the AWS EC2 instance, whenever we are creating one more important input, what do we have this is that is security group. Security group, whenever I am going to talk, whenever I use that any keyword of the security group is nothing but just think about it is a firewall. Yeah, so these are all some important inputs which we need to use it while launching the virtual machine using AWS EC2. So if you are going to launch the EC2 instance is nothing but that is we are going to launch the virtual machine. Virtual machine to launch it, AMI is required, type of instance required, storage required, that is EBS required, security groups required, and is it required the public interface, private interface, that is a network, yes, IP addressing mechanism required. Yeah, these are all the main inputs to create the EC2 instance. Is it clear about that terminologies? The comparing with that normal basic computer component and EC2 instance component. Just type this in the chart window EC2 if you are good with this. I'm just giving that the terminologies. I didn't start at EC2. But if you're going to launch the virtual machine, yes, you see that's in the background. If you're launching this any virtual machine, I see that here some message ECS is great. Okay, we're talking about it EC2. If you know already, okay, that was typo. Okay, fine, no issues. Yeah, EC2 is great. Yes, definitely. Simple. So within the minute you can get it that the virtual machine. So just to have the internet and AWS, the yesterday we were talking that sign up and account you have created. Now if I need that Ubuntu system, or if I need that Windows server, or if I need that the Red Hat based system, within the minutes you can launch it. Do you need that one, or do you need the 10? Do you need the 20? But as a service quota limitation, yes, as we were talking that service quota limitation, yeah, one region you can launch it the 20 EC2 instances. By default, they are giving that. But if you need that more, then you need to raise the service request. Yeah, so there are the main inputs for the EC2 instance. This is about normal computer terminology which we use it. But if you convert that computer terminology into that EC2, yes, AMI is the input, type of instance is the input, storage, yes, the EBS volumes are the inputs, security groups, that's if you talk it, that is the firewalls are the inputs. Then a network's point of view, is it a public network you are going to launch it? Is it in the private network do you want to launch it? And what is that IP addressing mechanism? That is a CIDR concepts we have with the VPCs. That is a networking concepts. Yeah, these are all the main inputs that we can say that whenever we are going to create a virtual machine in AWS. Yeah, let me show that now these main inputs while launching the EC2 instance. It's launching an EC2 instance and running for Linux operating system. I'm going to use it, or you can work with the Windows also, no issues. Yeah, we'll be launching that about our first virtual server using the AWS console, and we'll get first a high level approach to the various parameters. I'm just going to give the high level inputs only, but yes, EC2 is not just a single class to complete it. So we have this almost the 1 week classes talking about it, EC2, then security group separately, then networking, that is public and private IP address, how do you manage it, then working with the storages. So that is we'll go for that one by one component deeply later. But let me go ahead and launch that the EC2 instance with the high level with these inputs. Yeah, so how do we go ahead to that? The services, yes, you can just type that the EC2 in the search window, or you can go to the services and you can find that compute related. In the compute, you can find that EC2. So if you are frequently working with that, you can add to that the favorites, and you can directly access from the EC2 here. Yeah, so this is EC2 dashboard. But whenever we are talking that yesterday IAM is a global one. We didn't focus on the region. So IAM is global service. But if you're going to talk it about as what are the main important services which are specific to the global, which are specific to the global. Can you type this in the chart window, which we had it yesterday? So what are the main services that we have in AWS which are belong to the global? Yes, good. IAM, S3, and Route 53. Whenever we are working with these services, yes, good. So whenever we are working with these services, just remember that these are all the global, but remaining any service you are talking is nothing but that is a region scope. Yes, now we are working with the EC2. EC2 is a region scope. Now, first you need to make sure that the virtual machine which you are planning to launch it, the way do you want to launch it, in which region that you want to launch it. So you need to be the switch to that region. Suppose I would like to launch the virtual machine in the Mumbai. Then I can switch to the Mumbai. That means I'm choosing that Mumbai geographical location. Yes, now if I launch that any EC2 instance here, that is I'm choosing that the data centers and everything, that physical data center which is located in the Mumbai region. Okay, fine, good. So that is one basic input. And now let's see in the EC2 dashboard. Now, if we just observe that the overview of all the resources which we have in this region. So this is, as we are talking, that this is the region specific. In this region, how many instances are running? Running instances count you can see, but I don't have any instances. And how many elastic IPs? I'll come back to that. What is the elastic load balancers? Yes, you can create load balancers. But how many do you have? That snapshots concepts, auto scaling group, that is a scaling approach dynamically to manage it, the EC2 instances. But we didn't create it, the still the scaling group. But I'm having some EC2 instances. It is showing that the two count. But if I go to that instances section now, you can just click on here. It will. Sorry everyone, so network is disconnected. Now do you see the screen?
It's visible.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so whenever I just click on this instance section, it is redirected to that instances option. But yes, before I was working with some instances. Now I see that I had some instances, but which were terminated. Yeah, so you can see this list of all the instances. The two it is showing that yes, but they are not running state. Yes, you can see that the overall the resources information, how many instances you have in this region, and how many instances are in the running state, and volumes as we're talking about it, EBS volumes, how many volumes you have that, and we have some type of dedicated host. Yes, have we taken that any dedicated host from the AWS, or what is the dedicated host? We'll come back to that. But they're all yes. Next, we are going to learn it one by one. This is just started understanding that the dashboard. Yesterday, IAM dashboard we are understanding how many users we have, groups we have, roles you have, policies you have. To understand it, that is a dashboard. The same way, EC2, they're all the resources. As we're talking about it, yes, auto scaling groups are the important, load balancers are the important, instances are the important, volumes are the important, and the firewalls we are talking, the security groups, the firewalls, and the snapshots. These are backup mechanism. Yeah, if you are having that the storage is nothing but storage backups are the another important thing. If something the volume is got crashed, then you need to have that backup for it, right? So how you can take the backups of the storages? That is a snapshot concept. Yeah, there are the resources one by one. We are going to talk it. Don't worry. But this is a dashboard. Now, if you move to the instances section, now before in the class I was using some instances which was terminated. Don't worry about it. So this one, I mean, whenever we terminate the instance, it shows that approximately 1 hour, and after that, automatically this will be the removed from the list. Okay, now let me go for launching the instance. How I can launch the EC2 instance? Now I need to have one virtual machine, which is belong to that some Linux-based operating system. And the type of the system capacity is, as we are using the free type, is very, very important. The launch type or instance type you are choosing is nothing but free tier eligibility. You need to use the instances. Suppose if you're going to launch it at the 16 GB, then cost will be high. Even if you are going to use the free tier also, then they will charge it. If you need it really, and if you are okay with the charges and all that, then you can use it. Yeah, so in the free tier, what is the eligibility? 1 GB RAM capacity, you can launch it. Yeah, I need that one Linux system, and with 1 GB capacity, 1 core process unit. And storage point of view, yes, let's think of it. the default they are giving that the 8 GB capacity of the storage. They're all I'm talking about the free tier eligibility. But if you need more than that also, you can just request that. Yes, let's see this all those inputs. How I can choose it, the AMI, operating system, or how I can choose it instance type, how I can choose it the storage, or how do we define the firewalls, that is security groups. Yes, let's go for this launching the instance. Yes, now we are in the instances section. Launch instances, launching an instance. Yeah, here you can define that name of this virtual machine. So once it has been created, it is going to list in the instances section, right? How do you want to identify that? Okay, I'm just giving that this one as a server or a demo server, whatever the name you or app server. Suppose you are planning to launch it this one in this instance, some Tomcat server, then you can mention this app server. Or you are planning to install Apache, then you can mention that web server or a development web server, testing related web server. Yes, you can give the name of this virtual machine. The next input, as we're talking that AMI is nothing but which OS are you going to using that? That is the main input, OS images. And here you can see this in the quick start section. So they are giving that some AMIs. Yes, so do you want to launch that Amazon Linux? That means Amazon itself is providing one Linux operating system. Like how we have the CentOS, Red Hat Linux, Ubuntu, like that. Amazon team itself, they are giving that one Linux operating system, but this supports Red Hat based one, RHEL based. That means CentOS and Red Hat or SUSE Linux, they're all the RHEL based, right? Same like that, Amazon has come up that their own AMI. Or if you need the Mac OS, yes, you can select that the Mac OS operating system. But Mac OS operating system, is it available in the free tier? No, this is not available in the free tier. No, don't use it, the Mac OS and all that. And if you need that Ubuntu system, that is a Debian based operating system, if you'd like to work with that. Even that Vagrant also, we are talking that ISO image, right? That is Vagrant box. Do you need the CentOS or do you need that Ubuntu set it and to find that the box name and use it Vagrant, you need to with the box name. The same thing here, AMI. Do you need that Ubuntu? Do you need that Windows servers? Yeah, Windows server, there are all the different Windows server they have given that. Do you need the 22 and yeah, the basic Windows server, or is it with the SQL server, MS SQL server? And in that MS SQL also we have the standard edition and enterprise editions with the different versions, 2017 model, 2019 model, 22 model. Yes, which one do you need it? But there are some free tier eligible, we are good. Yes, if you like to work with the Windows server, you can use it to this AMI. And Red Hat operating system. Yes, if you like to launch that Red Hat Linux, the line 9, and you see that this is a free tier eligible. Free tier eligible, if you see that, you can use it in the free tier. But if you are choosing that other AMI, suppose if you are choosing that with the high availability, this AMI, then this is chargeable. So once if you launch it, on the basis of that hours which you are going to use it, hourly it will be charged. I'll show that cost you can verify all those stuff later. Yeah, Red Hat, do you need it? Do you need the SUSE Linux? Or do you need the Debian based system? So you can choose it. There are some quick start AMIs which are available, or you can browse more AMIs also from the marketplace. That means AWS is going to allow that. Suppose if I'm having that one AMI which is belong to the Jenkins related, yes, I can publish that AMI. Who needs the Jenkins? They can use it that AMI and they can launch the Jenkins directly. They don't need to worry about that struggling to set up the Jenkins. So like that, if you have the specific the AMIs, then you can find it. But here we are talking about the quick start AMI. And we can create about our own AMIs also. We'll come back to that about our own AMI. And you see that's like here 7,978 are available from the AWS market. Yeah, so there are the different AMIs which are, yeah, so you can find it, suppose, yeah, pricing unit based, Linux or Windows based operating system, and free tier eligibility, and architecture based, and average rating based. And if you go for the more here, yes, infrastructure based or DevOps based. Suppose if I click on the DevOps based, then all these AMIs which are showing that DevOps based AMIs, DevOps. And in that DevOps also, I need to, thus I'm looking that especially for the source control or monitoring point of view or a Terraform infrastructure as a code. Then if I have chosen that, then Docker on Ubuntu. Suppose if I selected this AMI and if I launch the virtual machine, there's already AMI, I mean, that AMI contains the Docker which is installed. I don't need to install separately the Docker once again. But if before going to choose it, you can see they're all starting from the 0.00 per hour. Yeah, so you need to refer that the before going to use it that AMI, the pricing, the cost, how they, you see that the Jenkins server on Ubuntu. If I need the Jenkins server on Ubuntu, I can select this AMI and I can launch it. But whenever I'm using this AMI, this is the charge I'm going to have it per hour. So 0.03 per hour. And Ubuntu server version and the Jenkins server. Yes, everything ready made. Now Ansible AWS and AWS X, I need it. Then yes, this is the cost per hour. Or yearly wise, this is the cost. Yeah, so you can find it AMIs from the marketplace or community AMIs which are belong to that. Yes, CentOS based. If you are looking at, yes, you can select the CentOS. All the CentOS related AMIs you can find it here. But they're all not free tier. So free tier, if you'd like to go to that in the quick start, you can find it, or you can just use it. Yes, in the filter option, free tier eligible. Then you will get it only the free tier eligible. Yes, they're all the AMIs which are available in the free tier. That means no charge if you're going to use it, these AMIs. Yeah, that is about AMI understanding. So we have that. We also can create about our own AMIs. We'll come back. How to create about our custom AMIs. But for the timing, let me go ahead and use that in the free tier eligibility. Amazon Linux AMI, I'm going to use it. Yes, this is Amazon Linux. So in that Amazon Linux also, don't use that Amazon Linux 2023 and use that Amazon Linux 2 AMI, and which is on the kernel version 5.10. And this is supporting SSD volume, that is optimized volume. So whenever we are launching the instance, it will be the fast while booting the system, because it has to load it, right, the OS from the disk while boot up time. So SSD volume is the optimized one. Yeah, let's select that this AM. Yeah, now I have chosen that AMI and AMI from the catalog. Yes, this is the Amazon Linux 2 AMI. Or simply what you can do this is, if you are good with that browsing like this, you can work with that. Or simply go to the quick start section, and in the quick start section, select that Amazon Linux. And here select about, instead of the first one, select the second one. Amazon Linux 2 AMI kernel 5.10. This one I was selecting that. You can select it directly from the quick start also. In the quick start, you see the free tier eligible AMIs. But if you go to the marketplace, then other providers AMIs also, you will see that. Yeah, so AMI selection, I'm going to use it Amazon Linux 2 AMI. If you'd like to work with that Ubuntu, or if you'd like to work with that Red Hat or SUSE Linux or Ubuntu or Debian based, then you can try to explore it. the AMI is working with that. Yeah, AMI selection is the operating system selection. So this is the first and basic, the input for the EC2 instance. And this is like now you see that finally the description of the AMI. Yes, Amazon Linux 2 kernel and 64-bit architecture. And this is the AMI ID, unique ID. And one important point, these AMI's IDs are specific to the region. Suppose if you like to use the same AMI ID in the another region, then you cannot. So each region is going to have its specific AMIs. Yeah, some AMIs you will find it in this Mumbai region, some AMIs you don't find it in the Singapore region. Or if you go to that North Virginia, then you will get it latest and advanced all the services, but some services are not available in the Mumbai. Yeah, these are all the scope to the region. Okay, are you clear about that AMI selection? Simple. So just come to here and choose that the quick start section, Amazon Linux, and use that Amazon Linux to AMI. It is kind of Red Hat based operating system, or if you directly work with the Red Hat, yes, you can choose the Red Hat, but make sure that the free tier eligible. Yes, that is the latest one which is available, the Linux 9, Red Hat Linux 9, or if you like to 8, they didn't give that. Yeah, 8 with SQL Server they have given, and 9 with the availability, and 9 with the basic instance. Only this is available in the free tier. Or if you like to work with that Ubuntu, you can work with that. Yes, I'm going to use that Amazon Linux, and which is belong to the 2 Amazon Linux 2 AMI. Next, as we're talking about instance type is going to decide the 2 factors. Now we have chosen AMI. Next, we are choosing that instance type. Instance type you are choosing is nothing but 2 factors. One is a process, second one is RAM. So how many core process units required for your virtual machine, and how much RAM that is required. These 2 factors, that's we are going to deciding that in this instance type section. Yeah, now you see this instance type by default T2 micro, it is showing that we have the different types. I will clearly explain this later in one of the section. But for the timing, you see the T2 micro, how many core process units it is supporting? That is 1 core process unit, 1 process, and 1 GB capacity of the RAM. But this is a free tier eligible. We can use it up to 750 hours per month. But after that, it will be chargeable. How much chargeable? Linux operating system, if I choose it, 0.0124 USD per hour. Or if it is the Windows, if you have selected, then the 0.017 USD dollars per hour. The RHL based or SUSE Linux based, the cost is the different. On the basis of which AMI you are going to use it on this type of instance. But we have the different types for the timing, don't worry about it. But you can get it, even you can see that 0.5 GB memory also. What do you do with the 0.5 GB? Whenever you start the instance itself, it is going to almost a hang situation, right? Launching that the OS and the boot file system itself, it's required some amount of the RAM capacity. Yeah, but you can get it. They are giving that. But we are using T2 micro. Yes, always use the T2 micro, but we have the different types. T2 extra large, you see that, yes, the 2 GB, the 4 GB capacity, 8 GB capacity, 16 GB capacity, 30 GB, 32 GB, 96 GB, 72 GB, 192 GB of the RAM. But don't worry, all the things I'll explain in one of the section. For which service purpose, which type of instances are recommended. We have the T types, C types, that is compute based, memory optimized based, IO operation optimized based. We have the different types of instances. We'll come back later on this. Yeah, that is the second input. instance type. And next one is key pair. Key pair is the which is going to helpful to access the system or to connect it to the system. This is kind of SSH key pair. Suppose if I'd like to connect it to the instance, Vagrant SSH, whenever we use it, background it is going to use the private key, right? Public private key and a public key. Like that, once this EC2 instance has been launched, if I'd like to access that console or if I'd like to connect to this EC2 instance, how do we connect it? You need to have that username and a password. But password based authentication, no, that is not given that by default. Which kind of authentication we have is passwordless. Passwordless, if you would like to use it, you need to have the private key and public key, right? Yes, you can generate the key pair. Now let me create one key pair. Key pair I'm creating is nothing but, do you remember that? Key generation. SH key gen. And the private key we'll be having in the source system and the public key we'll be having on the destination system. So which system do you want to connect it on the system? That's we'll be having suppose as we're talking about it, suppose you are connecting to the destination system from the source system. On the source system, which key we need to have it? Here on this system, we need to have the private key, right? And here we will copy the
Public key.
Yes, public key. Yeah, as we are understanding that this section in the SSH. The same thing here, once the EC2 instance has been launched, if I would like to connect to this EC2 instance, connecting to this EC2 instance is I need to have the public key. But in my system, in my Windows system, from which system I would like to connect it to the system, I need to have the private key. So that key generation we are doing here. And whenever we generate the key, let me just show that the key pair. So if I go for the creating a key pair, now you can give that the key pair name. This is for demo. I'm just giving. And key pair type is RSA use it. And which file we need to download it is .pem file. This is for OpenSSH point of view. Mobile XTEM we are using. Or Git bash we are using. I was discussing all these concepts in SSH. Yeah, now once the EC2 instance is launched and if you'd like to connect it, you need to download the private key. Private key, we need to download it in our Windows system. So if you are going to use the Git bash or mobile XTEM, we need to download the .pem file. Or if you are going to use the putty tool, then you need to have the .ppk file. But for the time, go ahead with the .pem file and create a key page. So we are going to use the mobile XTEM, the best tools. Yeah, putty also you can use it, but putty if you are going to use it, then use that .ppk file. I will give this some documentation so how you can have it with the putty connecting to the EC2 instance. Yeah, I'm going to download the .pem file. So create key pair. Yes, whenever I say that yes, it has been downloaded my .pem file. Yeah, now I can use it with this .pem file while connecting to this EC2 instance. Yeah, so for inputs, voice image, instance type, and key pair. Key pair is to access the system. I have downloaded the private key, but public key, whenever we create this EC2 instance, automatically the public key will be copied. We don't need to copy explicitly. So whatever the key we have created, that key public key will be used in this EC2 instance which we are creating, and the private key we have downloaded, which we will use it that private key while connecting to this EC2 instance. That's I will show that. And for the timing network settings, I'm not going to talk it too much. So just go ahead with the default VPC, default subnet. And yes, assign the public IP address. Yes, go ahead with that. I need to have the public IP address to access it. But private and how to access, that's in the networks, we'll talk it more deeply. Yeah, network settings that go for the default options. Don't try to work it too much now. And next option is firewall. Firewall, as we're talking about the security groups. Suppose once this EC2 instance is ready, I need to log into this EC2 instance. Log into EC2 instance is nothing but which service? What is the service are you going to use it? Login time. Which service is required to up and running on this EC2 instance? SSH service, right? And SSH is going to run it on which port? Yeah, you are connecting to the system remotely is nothing but what is the service on the Linux based systems? SSH. SSH which port? 22.
22.
Yes, good. 22 port. So by default, whenever we are launching the EC2 instance, in EC2 instance is blocking all the ports. That means you cannot connect it. But I need to access it, this EC2 instance. Accessing is nothing but SH communication as a Linux based system. SH I am doing is nothing but which port should be allowed? 22 port. Yes, that's you can define in the security group section. Otherwise, you cannot access it. Even if you have the key pair. Key pair is authentication mechanism. Password less based authentication. But if the firewall is not allowing that, even if you have the username and password and IP address, everything also, you cannot access the system because firewall is going to block you. So we need to enable that. Now, which service we are planning to access it is 22 port. Yes. So we are going to create a security group. If you have this already existing one, you can use it. But yes, for the time, let's go ahead and creating a security group. And which traffic we are allowing that? 22. SSH is nothing but indirectly it is going to allow that the port for the 22. But from which IP address? Yeah, for the timing, I'm going to define that any IP address. So you also can log in it to my EC2 instance from about your system, or I also can log it from my Windows system. Any network you can access. But if I would like to restrict it, yes, I can restrict it. Suppose if I define that my IP, only from my IP address, for the SSH point of view, I can access it. That means you cannot access it now. Yeah, this is recommended actually, my IP. But that's we will talk it more in the security group. For the timing, just go ahead with the anywhere. Anywhere if I'm just defining that rules with the source 000/0. This is a CADR format in the network we are trying to understand it. 000/0. That is all IP addresses. To access about your instance, we recommend setting security group rules to allow access from known IP addresses only. Yeah, it is suggesting that, but I'm okay for the timing. But recommended is yes, restrict it only the particular IP addresses, SSH especially. Okay, I don't have those any security concerns for the timing. I'm okay with that. Giving accessing for the SSH traffic from any IP address to the EC2 instance. That is a meaning. And if you like to access the 80 port, then you need to enable this option. 80.
Sir,
But we'll come back later. Yes, please.
sir, all these are, which means now we are regarding this firewall now, we are discussing about the inbound and outbound rules.
Yes, exactly. This is exactly inbound rules.
Okay, sir. Okay.
I'll come back clearly what is that inbound and outbound. Once instance basic understanding is done, then I'll come back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I'm just allowing that to my EC2 instance. Yes, security group. For the traffic, yes, SSH traffic, I'm allowing that from any system. This is just, yes, incoming request to my EC2 instance. Yeah, so just go ahead for the timing. So creating a security group and allow SSH if you'd like to access that. But what is the security group and how do we define the rules in the security group? What is the inbound? What is the outbound? And how do we manage it to this? The particular areas allowing that. That is, yes, tomorrow we will talk about that. That is one by one concepts. Okay, this is about firewall allowing that. Otherwise, you cannot access it. If you don't enable that SSH traffic, then you cannot access the EC2 instance. Yeah, now we have done so far. Give the name to this machine, virtual machine, and choose the AMI, Amazon, and make sure that is whatever the AMI you are going to use it. Whether you are going to use it working with the Ubuntu, yes, you can select the Ubuntu, but make sure the free tier is eligible. If it is not showing the free tier, then it will be chargeable. On the basis of the hours which you are launched it, then at end of the month, the invoice bill will be generated. I was showing about it in the billing section. Keep on watch that the billing dashboard. But until, if I use the free tier, then no issues. No cost will be applicable. And instance type, yes, this also make sure that the free tier eligible type of instance. Even 1 GB more enough for about our practice. But in some cases that is required some capacity. For 1 hour, those cases, yes, you can use it to some different type of instances. But mostly whenever you are working, go ahead with the T2 micro instance, which is supporting that 1 GB RAM and 1 core process unit. And key pair, this is like as a SSH key generation. Yes, we are generating the key. And a private key, we need to keep it in our local system from where you are connecting that. And a public key will be having in this EC2 instance that is going to take care by that AWS. So just to create that key and download the private key. I have already downloaded the private key, that is a .pem file. And this is about network settings. Just go ahead with the default for the timing. And then yes, firewall security group we are creating and allowing that SSH traffic from anywhere. For the timing, just go ahead with anywhere. Yeah, that is about security group sections. And one more section as we are talking about the storage. Yeah, don't stress too much on the storage now, but we'll talk it this later. Storage separate section, security group separate section we have, storage is separate section we have, and AMIs about custom AMIs, how do we create it, that separate section we have. And what are the different types of instances that we can choose it, in which context. Yes, we have the separate section. So each input we go deeply the later. Yeah, storage point of view, the go for this default, yes, it is given that 8 GB of the RAM the storage, that is a disk capacity with the type that is GP2, but we have those other types also. But this is the GP2 SSD based. SSD is more optimized. Yeah, go ahead with the GP2. But one warning, you can see that free tier eligible customers can get up to 30 GB of EBS. Yes, in the free tier eligible, how much you can request, that is up to 30 GB you can use it that on the storage point of view. So which is general purpose SSD. But if you go for that something other provisioned IOPS, these are all especially databases point of view, will use it. But if you use it this time, then it will be chargeable. Use it only general purpose SSD for the timing. This is the 2 generation and 3rd generation we have, but for the timing go ahead with the GP2 2nd generation. And you can attach this multiple volumes also. I'll come back later to show that in the EBS section, how do you attach the volume and how you can access that volume within the EC2 instance. That is the latest story. For the timing go ahead with 8 GB, and this is going to create a root volume. And advanced details for the timing not required. And final summary, if you see that, how many instances we would like to launch it? 1. Do you want to launch the 10? Yes, you can just define the 10. Then with the same configuration, 10 instances will be launched. But I don't need the 10. I need that only 1 enough. And yes, this is a AMI and this is a type of instance, and this firewall, this is a security group. Yeah, new security group is going to creating that. And storage volume is one volume, which is having the capacity 8 GB. And the free tier in your first year includes 750 hours of the T2 micro or T3 micro in the regions in which T2 micro is unavailable. In case in this region T2 micro is not available, then you can use the T3 micro as a free tier eligibility. As we're talking, these are all the region scope. So you can read that the information, and let's go for the launch the instance. Yes, it is successfully initiated the launch of instance, and you can see the logs over here. Yeah, it is succeeded. And next steps you can refer it, but not required now. Let's go ahead, view all instances. Yeah, now you see that, yes, I have given the server name as server, and this is the instance ID, that is EC2 instance ID, and yes, a state which is showing that yes, it is running that. Yeah, instance is launching. It takes some time. Immediately that is not available, but yes, it is launching. And what is the type of instance we have chosen? T2 micro. Status checks. Still, that is status checks. Yes, it is showing about it initializing. Before terminated instance was gone. You see that. Now I have that only one instance here, and this is running. We have just launched this one. Still, it is initializing. It is starting that put up and all that. No alarms defined. And the availability zone, as we're talking, that availability zone is one data center. Yes, you see this now in one of the availability zone, it has been launched. What is that availability zone? AP South 1B. That means in the Mumbai region, AP South 1 is the region code. A, B, C, these are all the availability zone code. So randomly it has been taken one of the availability zone, that is AP South 1B. That means in the Mumbai region, in one of the data center, which is having the name as AP South 1B. In that data center, it has been launched this EC2 instance. And this is the system public IP address, DNS name. If I like to connect it to this EC2 instance, I need to have the public IP address, right? IP address required. Yes, that's public IP address, DNS name. But IPv6, we didn't enable that. Elastic IP is not defined. Monitoring, we didn't enable that. Yes, you see the security group is also attached. Security group is nothing but firewall. Yes, we were enabling only for the 22 port. Yes, that is available. And key, what is the key? SSH key pair. So this is the key which we have attached, the key name, and at what time the instance has been launched, the launch time. As per about our time zone, it is showing that. Yeah, now you can go ahead and you can see this more details about this one also. Whatever we are talking, there's some important properties here. You can see this, you can select this instance and you can see that details information of that instance, like instance ID, public IP address, private IP address, instance state, public IPv4 DNS, private IP DNS name, host type, yeah, instance type. Yes, almost all that's the properties, whatever you are talking, that you can find it here. Yeah, so remaining anyway, we'll talk it on the basis of the sections, the networking section, storage sections, security. Security is security group. Yeah, this is the security group which has been attached. Now, if I click on the security group, and here we have some inbound rules. And what is that inbound rules that we have enabled is SSH port we have enabled, right? SSH protocol we have enabled. From the source any IP address. At any time you can change it, this one, edit inbound rules. And if you would like to block it for the 22, yes, you can edit the inbound rules. and you can remove this. Then that means anyone is trying to access this on the port 22, that will be disabled. They cannot access the service on this virtual machine. Yeah, the security group, which are all the instances that is attached. In all the instances, that will be blocked. That's I'll come back later.
Sir, if we delete that, the
Yeah.
earlier one we have created the inbound, no? If we have deleted that in that edit option,
Yes.
what will happen, sir? So according to this inbound rule, we have created that we are allowing any range of IPs followed by port is 22.
Yes. So then, I mean, you cannot log into the EC2 instance. I'll show that. Just wait. I'll show the practical. If I delete it, what's going to happen? That we'll see that.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is about EC2 instance understanding. Yeah, the launching the some with the main inputs. What are the main inputs? AMID, type of instance, security group, key pair, storage, networks. We didn't touch it. Default. Go ahead for the timing. Yeah, these are all the main things that we are understanding. Now, my EC2 instance is running, which is having the OS as Amazon Linux operating system. Now, how do I access this one? Yeah, if I would like to connect it to this EC2 instance quickly to get that idea, so just to select that instance and you can see the connect option. Then it is going to give you the basic idea how you can connect it. Yeah, so connected to EC2 instance, yes, EC2 instance connect directly. Yes, it is given that the public IP address. Yes, you would like to access the instance, you need to have that IP address, right? Yeah, this is IP address of the system, and this is a username. Yes, you need to have the username. Vagrant box you are logging is nothing but what is the username you are using? Vagrant username. That Vagrant box has given that Vagrant username. Like that now, EC2 AMI, whatever we have chosen, that AMI is already having that one user account, that is EC2 user. So what is the default user that we have in this AMI, in this operating system? EC2 user. Yes, now you can use it, this user, this IP address, and you can directly connect it from here itself, in the browser itself, you can connect it. So if I click on the connect, now I am in that EC2 instance. That this is a virtual machine, I am accessing that. So Vagrant SSH, whenever you use it, we'll get the terminal, right? Vagrant machine terminal. Now this is my EC2 instance terminal. Now I can run that commands. So I would like to update the system. Yes, M update. So what you would like to do the tasks on the system? Yes, you can run it, or you can perform those tasks. That is about your next activities. Yeah, this is one approach. Directly in the browser itself, you can connect it, but this is not recommended always. So if you have this quickly to do something, which you can use it. But if I would like to connect it through that SSH, like mobile XTRM, I need to use it to connect it, or PuTTY, I need to use it, or Git Bash, I need to use it. Then you can go to that SSH client option. Here it is given that instructions. Open an SSH client. Locate about your private key file which are downloaded, right? That is important here. And if that private key file, make sure it is have the permission that is a 400. That means only current user can read it. Remaining, what is the 00? Others point of view, my group of the users, they cannot access this. Only I can read it. Yeah, set the permissions. Then how you can connect it is, this is the command which you can use it. SSH-I, and that is a PEM file wherever you have, you can use it. And what is the username we are talking that? EC2 user @ this is the DNS name, or you can use it IP address. IP address or the DNS name. So here it is showing that DNS name. So now let's go to that mobile XTRM and we'll try to use it. So I'm going to use the mobile XTRM. Even that vagrant also we are using the mobile external, right? The same way I'm going to try to connect it to the EC2 instance. Are you following the points, everyone? So just type that the following in the chat window quickly to get about your attention. Good, good, good. Thank you. Very good response. Yeah, be active. So now I'm going to use the mobile external, and already we are using the background the same way as remote host. As remote host, I need to have that either IP address I can use it or a DNS name also I can use it. But how do I get it that IP address of the EC2 instance? Or how do I get it that DNS name, public DNS name of that EC2 instance? Go back to the EC2 console. Here also you can get it. Yes. So this is the DNS name of this EC2 instance. In the connect option, you can get it. Or if you have selected this instance, then in the details section, you can see that this is the main disadvantage from this AWS. Yeah, the details point of view, if you go to that in the public IP address, yes, now you can copy the public IP address of this instance. Or you can take this public DNS name also. Either one you can use it. DNS name is logical name representation, and this is the IP address representation. Yeah, take this IP address and go back to the mobile external and use the public IP address. Don't use the private IP address for the timing. So use the public IP address and specify the username. What is the default username we are talking about? Vagrant box contains the Vagrant username. Now, Amazon Linux AMI contains that what is the default username in that operating system is EC2-user. If you don't remember it, then don't need to worry about it. Just click on the server and connect it. Then you will see this is a username. Suppose if you're going to use the Ubuntu system, maybe username is different. Or if you're going to use it like something Windows system, the username is different. Yes, on the basis of the AMI which you are choosing that, in that AMI is the operating system. Operating system contains the users who were designing that AMI. They are giving the some default users. Vagrant, they have given the Vagrant is a default username. Like Amazon team, they are giving the default username as EC2-user. Like that Ubuntu, if you go to that AMI, then default username is Ubuntu. But how do you know it is? Once it has been launched, the instance, go to that connect to instance and you can get it, the default username of that AMI. Yeah, so username we have defined. And what is the next input? I have defined that IP address, username, and now we need to define the private key. Private key already we have downloaded, right? Yes, choose that the private key here, which normally it will be downloaded to the downloads folder. Yes, this is my PEM file which I have downloaded. If I use a different file, then it doesn't work it. So for this EC2 instance, whatever the key pair which you have used, same key pair, the private key you need to use it because public key is already there in the EC2 instance. Yeah, let's select that and let's click on OK. Now, good. We have connected to the EC2 instance. Yeah, with this user, and this is the private IP. So internally it is going to show that private IP 172.31.4.183. So if you just go back to this and here if you verify that the private IP address, this is the private IP. So don't try to use the currently the private IP addresses. So whenever you are connecting, use the public IP because we are in a different network. About our Windows system is a different network and EC2 instance is launched in the Mumbai region that is in the different network. So from about our Windows, we are trying to connect it to that, the EC2 instance, which is launched in the Mumbai region. So now what I would like to do that, yes, you can run the commands the updating system or whatever you have, yes, you can perform the activities. So sudo yum update -y space. Yes, it's good. Now it is working. The remaining, that's about your choice. But we are able to assess it, right? Because the security group level SSH has been enabled. The firewall is allowing that. Suppose if I go back to this EC2 instance security group, suppose let's go back to that instance and let's choose the server and let me choose the security section. And in the security group, in the security section, I can see the security group. And if I go to the security group and inbound rules, SSH, it is allowed. If you see the rule, then that is allow rule. Then edit inbound rules, and I'm going to delete this rule, and I'm saving this rule. That means now we are blocking SSH. I don't define any inbound rules. Now if I go back to that mobile XTEM, and if I exit from here, even exit also it is not taking because it is completely blocked, and SSH you cannot do now. Now I'm not able to enter that. It is not taking inputs because SH I cannot do that. SH service, it is a block. Then you will get it connection timed out. Yes, you see network error, software caused connection abort. Even if I try to reconnect it also or restart the session also, I'm trying to reconnecting because that is a blocked. So security group is blocked. Now if I go back to that, the security group, and let me define the rule, you can choose that the protocol. Which protocol? SSH. SH, whenever you select, automatically it is choosing the port number 22. And I'm going to define that allow from anywhere for the timing. Then if I save this rule, yes, now what is the meaning? I have enabled for SSH. Now if I go back to the mobile XTEM, and if I just press Shift R, the capital R to restart a session, I'm just going to use it, Shift R. Yes, now I'm able to access the instance. So before it was blocked, that's why I cannot connect it and I cannot access it. But now I'm able to access it. Is it clear? Now suppose if I would like to access, if I would like to install Apache service, do you remember that in our background box also we were installing Apache service and accessing through the browser? Can I do this that's activity in this EC2 instance? Let me do quickly. So I'm going to install Apache. Not Apache, the package name is HTTPD, right? HTTPD-y. And let me start that HTTPD service. Systemctl start HTTPD. Yes, it has been started. And let me enable this. Yes, I have done enable. And let me check the port status of this. It has been started or not. We know it already these commands. Yes, that is active and up and running. That means now in this EC2 instance, I have set up my Apache service. And if I verify this netstat, -NLTP, yes, 80 port is running. 80 port is running. But now, if I take this system public IP address, if I go to that EC2 instances section, if I take this public IP address, and if I hit that in the browser, do we get that? The home page of the Apache server? Can you give me that in the chat window, the answer? Do we get it now?
No, sir.
Yes. Why? Why we are not able to get this? Apache I have installed and 80 port is running on the EC2 instance. But why I am not able to get this?
Sir, there you have given 43.204. Is it a private key or what's
No,
it?
this is a public one.
Public one?
Yeah. Now it is blocking the security group, right? Security group you have enabled only for the 22. You can do SSH. But now you are trying to access the HTTP
Means in
protocol.
inbound we have given only for SSH, sir.
Yes.
So we are not allowing, firewall is not
Yes.
allowing to
Firewall
access.
is not allowing to access the HTTP.
We can do any sort of things through SSH, but through
Yes.
browser we can't do. If we define the rule in the inbound for Apache also, we can get the access.
Now let's go back to the EC2 instance security group. Inbound we are allowing that only 22. 22 I am able to access, no issues. But now we need that to access on 80 also. Let's add it one more rule. For which protocol? HTTP, that is a port 80 and allow from any IP address, then save the rule. Now we are allowing that SSH and HTTP protocols. Now if I just refresh here, now we got it the home page. That is HTTP is up and running. So security groups are playing very, very important role. That is as a firewalls. Now we have launched that Amazon Linux based operating system. And we have connected to this and we have installed Apache service. Whatever we are doing with the Vagrant virtual machine, not about our local system. Now, virtual machine I have launched in AWS cloud and I am connecting to that EC2 instance and I have set up that my service which is required for my application. That is HTTP service I have installed and I have deployed my application and that is a default okay the index.html file. Like that, if you have the Tomcat, yes, you can install the Tomcat and Tomcat port, you can enable that in the security group level. That is 8080. Like the database, you can install it, or WebLogic, you can install it. But system capacity is very, very important on the base of the service which you are going to install it, because we are using that 1 GB. But some of the services you are going to install it, you need to have that at least 2 GB or the 4 GB capacities. So on the base of the system type, you need to change it. Yeah, so this is about launching the instance and connecting to that instance and security groups. How do we use it? The inbound rules enabling that. Are you clear about these points? But this is just started. Don't worry about it. This is just, we are in the initial section. With the basic inputs, we have launched the EC2 instance and we are trying to connecting and we are trying to, yes, now I see that instance is running, one instance which is available and total instances, one which is available. And security groups key pairs point of view, no issues. They're all not chargeable. You can keep it as it is, no issues. But once the EC2 instance work is done, then terminate the instance. Don't keep it up and running. So how you can terminate the instance is once work is done, select that instance, and in the instance state, then you can do the stop instance, but don't use the stop, directly terminate it. So I'm going to terminate the instance. Yes, now after terminating that,
Sir, is there a way that with instance ID we can recover the VMs? Or if you go to Amazon, is there a possible way to recover the instance IDs?
recover the instance ID once it is
Instance, terminated. If we have instance ID, is there a way to recover it?
No, with instance ID based, we cannot recover it. But what we can do is we can take this instance backup if we have, that is a snapshot or AMI. That's how I will talk. How you can recover it, failures. That's we'll come back. We have the sections. But with the instance ID based, we cannot do. Instance ID is a runtime ID.
Okay.
Once it is terminated, that's you lost it. But if I'm having the snapshots or AMIs of this instance, then I can use it that snapshot copy or AMI copy to bring back that my instance. That's we'll see the demonstration later. Definitely we have that section as well as we'll come back. That's why EC2 is not just a one-day activity. This is almost a 5 or 6 days activity. Is it clear about that? Launching the EC2 instance and connecting to the EC2 instance, and yes, set up that Apache service and then terminating that. So there are the main inputs: AMI, instance type, storage. Let's go ahead for the timing. The default 8 GB with the GP2, the general purpose second generation, which is providing 8 GB. Just use it that. And network, yes, it is providing the public IP address. Yes, use the public IP address to connect to the instance, but private IPs doesn't work it from the system to connect it. And security group is enabled for that. If you would like to access that SSH, yes, SSH enable it. And if you are running that any Apache service, that service related ports, enable that in the security group. And instance type, if you would have chosen that is a core process units and as well as a RAM, that's you are selecting that. This is about instance related EC2 virtual machine related the basic inputs. Are you clear about these points? Type that clear in the chart window. Yeah, good. I see this. Good response. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. So that's all from my side. And today, try to launch the EC2 instance and make sure that with the free tier eligible, you are going to use that options, especially AMI ID and instance type. Yeah, directly by default, if you go to that anyway, free tier eligible, but just observe that and one by one input and create a launch the EC2 instance and security group, make sure that 22 is enabled. Then private key pair, create it and download that PEM file and use that mobile extend. Or you can use the Git bash also. Git bash, I will show this later, but for the time, go ahead, mobile extend. So specifying about that IP address, EC2 user, default, and key pair, the private key. So with that, you can connect it and try to install the HTTP service and try to access it that is through the browser by enabling the security group for the port 80, that is HTTP protocol. Yeah, this is the activity, try to complete it. And yesterday I am also some labs which have been given. Just go ahead, try to complete it, all those things, and be on regular activities, the completing those things also. Yes. And tomorrow we'll talk about that SSH section, that is security group section. There's some already we are understanding that the importance of it. The practical also we have seen, but yes, I have some slides to explain it. We'll go to that. That's explanation. Then we started about that some more public IP address, private IP address sections. That is network interfaces. Yeah, thank you. That's all from my side. Any queries, questions, please?
Sir?
Yeah, yes, please.
Instead of terminating the EC2 instance,
Yes.
if we stop that, the hours also counted in free time?
Yeah, normally for that RAM and the type of instance that is a core process units, it won't be chargeable, but volume will be chargeable.
Yeah.
because what are the what are the volume you have taken, even if you stop it also, that volume is not going to return back. Only runtime resources will be returned back. Runtime resources, that is a RAM and a CPU. Whenever we stop it, those resources will be returned back, and whenever you start it, again that is going to get back. But the volume is not like that. So once if you have taken that the volume, until if you terminate it, the volume is assigned, that will be charged.
So it is better to terminate even our daily activities also, means
Yes.
lab practice also.
Yes, that's why I'm saying that terminate the instance whenever you don't want that, and whenever you need it, launch it.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Now, this activity we are doing now as AWS point of view, the manual. I'm using that here now. Using manual we are talking, but whenever we jump into the DevOps, we are going to write code to launch this one.
Okay.
With that code, yes, I will launch it, and whenever I don't need it, with the code I will terminate it.
Okay.
But for the timing, yes, get familiar with all the concepts, because they're all the inputs for the next DevOps engineer.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Yeah, interesting. One by one, if you are keep on practicing these labs and understanding these concepts, then whenever we move to that automation approach, now browser you are using is nothing but manual. Selecting this option, that option is nothing but a manual input. But in the automation world, manual, there is no, we are not, we are going to exclude that manual activities. So we need to write this one also as a code, launching the EC2 instance with the Terraform. We are going to discuss the Terraform. There we'll see some more magics. The launching these EC2 instances and terminating the EC2 instances and security group, everything with one click we'll create it. And with one click we will destroy it. That is dynamic environments to manage it. This will come back in a way, but yes, first we should complete AWS manual activities, understand all these concepts. Yeah, I'm good from my side for today. I'm going to sign off, and we'll meet tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you.